Hey, Boaz here with Next Pittsburgh. I'm here in Swissvale at this former neighborhood grocery store that's now an artist studio, and we've got the artist herself to show us around, Katy Dement. Katy, how's it going?
Welcome to my studio. Welcome to Swissvale.
So, how long have you been working in this space?
We bought this building in 2016, and actually, I was working in it immediately, and we did about a year's worth of renovations before we actually moved in upstairs.
And so, looking around, it should be obvious that your sort of art form is paper.
I identify as a paper maker. I've been making handmade paper for about 35 years. And as soon as we walked into this beautiful space, I knew that I was going to make bigger things.
Yeah. And so, looking around here, can you guide us through some of the pieces we're looking at, or parts of pieces?
Right. Well, some of the ones that you'll see hanging here in the center are hollow forms, kind of pod-like, and several of them are sort of inspired by paper wasps.
I was gonna say that one right here. I mean, it looks like a wasp nest.
Well, it's partially made from paper by wasps and then also made by me.
I
And
love it's a collaboration
it's
with you and wasp.
exactly. And we use the same materials. The
Yeah.
wasp pull the fibers off of plants and old wood. And I've actually used the comb of the wasp where they would store their food and things like that down inside. That part they created 100%. And some of these hollow forms will hold light fixtures.
And then there's some things that look like clothes, some outfits.
Absolutely. I make a lot of paper clothing. I had a couple of mannequins that I'd salvaged off the roadside, and I would make handmade paper on the mannequin frames and then crack them and peel them off like an eggshell to have these hollow forms that people could actually wear.
Can you talk a little bit about sort of the history of this space? So you said over
Sure.
100 years ago it was a neighborhood sort of grocery
That's
store.
right. It was originally Riedel's Grocery. I've talked to a lot of the neighbors who are still in this neighborhood who came here and bought candy and did errands for their family. They'd walk up
Yeah.
to pick up stuff. And the Riedels lived here. They lived upstairs and they had the grocery store here for I don't know how many years. Sometime in the late 50s, there was a robbery attempt, at which point Mr. Riedel said, time to retire. And
Wow.
so they closed up shop and sold the building to some folks who reopened it as a beauty salon.
Oh.
And then it was a barber shop. And then it was a print studio, a lithography print studio. We have lots of electrical outlets downstairs for very heavy equipment. It was empty for a while, and then it was purchased by a professional dancer who it was the World Championship Lindy Hop dance champion.
What era is this
This
happening in?
this would was in the 90s,
Okay.
late 90s, early 2000s.
And so is that when that mirror went up on the wall?
Oh, yes. They took out all the cabinetry from the old grocery store and replaced it with 40 feet of mirrors. And if you look carefully at the floor, there are actually marks in the floor where they repeatedly practice their dance moves. And you can see little indentions in the floor. The dance studio didn't go so well in this neighborhood. There were actually two other dance studios that are still here in Swissvale. And apparently there was some competition. He sublet this house out to a group of death metal rockers who had death metal music venue happenings in our basement. We took one look at the space and knew this was going to be our home. And so we didn't even hesitate. We just made an offer right then and there and closed the deal within just a few days.
Have you discovered any other signs of either the salon or barber shop or grocery store in the space?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that we noticed was the abundance of telephone plugs. Why anyone would need over 20 telephone outlets in your house was kind of a mystery to us. And then we found out that during the time when this house was a salon, it was also a betting parlor. And so there were a lot of phone lines so you could call in and place your bet.
And so making paper is a very wet activity. I know because I actually took a class with Katie, and it's very wet. And so you call this space your dry space.
Right. I call this my dry studio for multiple reasons. One, since it was a dance studio, it has this beautiful maple flooring, which you really don't want to get wet on a regular basis. But also, now that I'm working on larger scale things, I like to have a little bit more space. So the downstairs, when it was a grocery store, was where they were doing butchering. So it had floor drains, quite a nice workable space. I have a lot of paper making equipment. All of these big rectangular wooden frames over on the wall are called molds, and those are for making sheets of paper, but some of them are scaled up to 4 foot by 6 foot. You can make really big sheets of paper.
That's insane. I mean, that seems so unwieldy to make something so big.
2 people to move them around when they're wet. They're very heavy. This really special table that I'd love to open up for you and show you what it is. It was originally designed by some famous sculptor as a table specifically for paper making, and it once lived at the Carnegie Science Center.
Oh.
It fell under disuse and ended up at Construction Junction. And within 24 hours, no less than 6 people had called me to tell me, hey, Katy, there's a paper making table at CJ. You need it. And I'm like, what do I need a special table for? And then I saw it, and I knew I had to have this table. What makes it special is what's inside. So let's open it up and take a look, right? So inside this stainless steel table, when you slide the 2 lids back, there are 3 vats that would hold paper pulp. And then the stainless steel areas that surround those vats are open mesh that allows water to drain into the bottom of the table, which drains into a tray, that drains into the trough, that drains into the storm sewer. Well, this is a bit of chaos looking, but honestly, I know where everything is. This is a collection of materials for drying pulp, molds, sponges, random fibers, different types of plant fibers. It's got like a little boat propeller in the bottom and a motor at the top. And I've filed the propeller so it's very sharp, and it cuts and spins and chops and makes pretty much any fiber into paper pulp.
So you just made a big blender, basically.
Yes, I built a giant blender. I can make a 5-gallon smoothie. So I said I was not just an artist, but I'm also a gardener, and gardening is really important to me.
I see sunflowers and corn and other stuff, but are these also ingredients for paper making?
Yes, of course they are. The corn is not looking so great right now. We had a little microburst and it all got blown over, but that's okay because even though it never made a lot of corn, it's made a lot of fiber, and I can use the stalks and the tassels in my paper making. This is a beautiful heirloom iris, and the leaves, whether they're green or brown, have long, hairy fibers that are going to work great for making paper. This summer, I grew a lot of flax.
This is what flax looks like.
This is flax, yeah. So I grew a ton of flax, and I am a part of the Rust Belt Fiber Shed project. They sent us flaxseed and encouraged us to grow flax and then make this flax into a garment that you can wear within 1 year.
Oh, wow.
So I built this machine here out of a tub and an old rake to harvest the seeds and pull some of the stalks and stuff off of the flax. When you make your fabric from flax, it's called linen. The seeds are linseed oil. And
I didn't realize that was all the same plant.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, useful plant. So all the flax we've been looking at will eventually become paper a lot like this. Large sheets of paper are going to be cut as if it was fabric and literally stitched together to make a garment. This is like hyper local. It all grew in my backyard, and it's going to become a very impractical garment.
Katy, thank you so much for the
You're
tour of your
welcome.
studio. And then you also live here too.
Right, we've lived here since 2016. This is we call it the Sky Deck, and it's just a great place to hang out. We like it because we're looking over the Mon Valley, and if you lean over the railing, you can see from Kennywood all the way to the Grays Bridge.
Oh, wow.
So,
And so if folks want to learn about papermaking, how can they sign up for one of your classes?
probably your best bet would be to start at my website. You can go to www.thepaperlady.com. I can't say the images are really up to date, but you can connect to my email that way. And I try to post schedules when I know I'll be teaching. I also teach classes at Contemporary Craft and Touchtone Center for the Arts in the Laurel Highlands.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the tour, Katy. This was awesome.
Thank you. I'm glad you guys could come out.